So we've been talking so much about Stranger Things season 5 theories. Is there a secret episode and all that? All that talk kind of, I feel like, sort of overshadowed this other topic regarding Stranger Things, and that is regarding where was Max's mom in the show. If you haven't heard, again, a little bit late to this one, but Jennifer Marshall had posted a reel about it, kind of just sort of poking fun, maybe like half serious, half fun. And then it's sort of kind of gaining traction and snowballing. And then a bunch of other things kind of came out of that, which is interesting to say the very least, but it does also raise into question why certain things were said to her. So I just want to talk about this because I thought it was an interesting topic regarding the whole Stranger Things kind of, topic that we've been talking about lately, because there's a lot of people that have different kind of polarizing views on the Duffers and, where they stand with, their writing and just their directing, and things like that, not just the skill side of things, but I guess maybe their human interactions. And again, there's a whole spectrum of just obviously opinions you're going to get, right? Humans are humans, and there's many different humans, and everybody, it's like everybody has a belly button. Everybody has an opinion, but it is an interesting conversation because Max is obviously in a coma, and her mom never shows up. And so what Jennifer Marshall ended up posting, I'll throw a screenshot up on screen of this reel. It was just kind of a short reel, not really much said verbally, but it's mostly in the caption. And she was saying, how she often thinks, where Max's mom was during season 5. And in the actual caption below, it says that she had cancer. She's like, I get it, but I was in remission during the shooting of season 5. Shooting would have helped me obtain my health insurance through the union. And that part is the part that I find kind of, sad, obviously, that she didn't end up having that health insurance. But anyway, she said maybe they had too many characters, and then a little kind of tongue-in-cheek joke, I don't know. But obviously Susan Hargrove is the worst mother ever, which I guess would be the case. Because again, Max is in this like super long coma, and where's her mom at? It just never kind of shows up. Now, after she posted this reel, everything kind of blew up. Everything started kind of spiraling, if you will. It sort of kind of turned into this whole thing where it gained a bunch of traction. And so she spoke on this whole thing, and that she was giving the benefit of the doubt. She doesn't think there was anything necessarily, nefarious, if you will, from the side of like the Duffers and everybody involved. But she had a couple of interesting things to say. I'll play one of the clips first, and then we'll discuss.
It was really just a lighthearted reel that got a lot of traction, much more than I thought it would. Clearly, the Duffers and Sean, they are fully able to go in whatever direction they want to go in. I can't tell you why my character was written out.
So she said during the shooting of season 5, she was kind of waiting to see if they would call her or whatnot, and they never ended up calling her. And then she goes on to say that once she's seen the final result, obviously she was disappointed, and that she felt there was a lot of places where Max's mom could have showed up, and that to her it felt like plot holes.
The entire time they were shooting season 5, I was just pretty much like, okay, if they call me in, they call me in. If they don't, they don't. Obviously, I was disappointed once I saw the final result, because there were plenty of places where I believed that her mom should have been, and it's kind of a plot hole.
But then again, the next part, she goes on to say that she doesn't think there's anything kind of nefarious or any kind of ill intent. Again, she's benefit of the doubt. Again, check this clip out.
I always think the best of people, and I really don't want to believe that there was anything nefarious there. I just think they had a lot of characters.
So again, giving the benefit of the doubt, she says she just thinks, maybe it was just they had a lot of characters, which again, if you watch the documentary, One Last Adventure, one of the parts in that documentary, the Duffers do kind of joke around when they kind of come, all the characters come in for the first kind of table read, and they see how many characters there are, and they're like, oh, we probably should have killed some of you guys off because there's so many people there. So yeah, maybe that is just basically what it is. Again, it's not like Max's mom was necessarily a prominent character, but at the same time, you would have thought like she would at least showed up for a brief moment, a brief scene or something. But again, are we really surprised, with all the different kind of things that felt like plot holes throughout season 5? Is that really surprised? Maybe not. She goes on to explain how this kind of transpired and whatnot though as well, because she kind of explains after that, what ended up happening is people were kind of pulling her aside during season 4 and asking her, if she was okay or different things like that. Because, essentially after COVID and everything, everybody came back and gained weight, but she had lost a significant amount of weight. And so people were kind of, especially in Hollywood, assuming, maybe is it a drug thing or whatever. So she ended up having to kind of explain to the people that she had, I think it was stage 3 melanoma cancer, I believe, if I recall correctly. And that, that she went through treatment, and then she was kind of, on the road to recovery or whatnot. So here, check this clip out.
A few people had pulled me aside and that I was close to and said, hey, just so you know, people are worried about you. One of the makeup artists said, is this a drug issue? Like, what is this? Because I had lost so much weight, my hair was falling out. I was just battling stage 3 cancer. So I didn't want that to be the rumor on set, which is why I went up to the Duffers after. And I explained to them that I had shot the entire season with cancer. I had done my treatments in between the episodes that I shot. I was on the path to recovery, and that I couldn't wait to see them in season 5.
So she also said basically that, she never really heard anything back. Like, if it was just kind of like they decided to go in a different direction or something, again, it just would have been nice to hear something. But she said, expressed that it was essentially hurtful that she never heard anything back. And then again, she was mentioning too, like, what made it, I guess, a little bit weirder for her is that at the end of season 4, they'd shot a scene, and apparently you can see the scene in the final product where, she's beside Erica, and there's, like, I guess you can see her hand, but you don't see her. So I don't know if they cropped it or whatever. But again, it just kind of seemed like they were kind of going, and again, this is towards the end, right? So this assumingly would have been after they found out that she had cancer, and I guess was again had went through treatment and different things like that. But so it's interesting that she says that as well.
I figured if they didn't have me in, that there wasn't a reason for it. And after it premiered, I received hundreds of messages saying, "What the heck? Where are you?"
Again, she expresses there was a bunch of people like messaging about it, like, hey, why weren't you in season 5? Different things like that. And then she goes on to say too that, like, maybe, again, giving the benefit of the doubt, maybe, on the side of, the those who are in charge, and like the Duffers and everyone else, that, maybe it's just kind of a stressful thing that they were thinking, like, hey, like, we don't know, like, how this thing is going to go with her, with her cancer. And, maybe if she does die, then they have to, recast or whatever. So, I mean, again, she's being very kind and gracious in her response towards all of this, and just kind of, how she's approaching it. And again, giving kind of the benefit of the doubt, which is probably a lot more than most people would, to the crew. Again, maybe some people say, like, maybe she's just trying to, like, protect herself as well. Maybe at the same time, maybe she just is genuinely being, kind of gracious, if you will. But there was a couple other things she said as well, and that is the fact that she hasn't heard from anyone since.
I just would have appreciated a hey, Jennifer, we went a different direction. Or I haven't heard from anybody as far as Sean or the Duffers, who I still hold dear to my heart.
But she has heard from, I guess, a couple or a few different crew members, and also one cast member, regarding all of this, and the theme, I guess, that has been kind of, prevalent amongst the people that she has heard from the crew and this one cast member, whoever this cast member is that, hey, this is going to get you blacklisted. Basically, the reel that she had posted is going to get her blacklisted, and meaning that, she's not going to be able to find work, as an actress, any further. And again, she, again, I'll play the clip real quick so you guys can actually hear it from her mouth.
I have heard from a few people on the crew and one cast member. The theme is, this is going to get you blacklisted.
And after that, she just basically goes on to kind of reiterate that, she doesn't think that there was any harm in it. She's reiterating that she has no ill will or ill intent towards, the Duffers or anything. And again, she's giving the benefit of the doubt, different things like that. She says that the reel was just kind of like in good fun. Again, what I got from it is, like, it was half serious, expressing, like, genuine, disappointment and hurt, but also kind of poking fun about it as well. And I don't know, I don't think it's like that serious, but to have warnings that she might get blacklisted, again, it's not warnings from, like, anyone in authority necessarily, but people that are in the industry, right? Like, again, some of the crew, what part of the crew? I mean, it could be anyone, right? It could be like the set department. It could be like makeup. It could be, whatever it could be. It could be like the camera crew. Like, I don't know who, or a variety, a mixture of a few different people from different departments. And then one cast member. So again, it's people that are obviously in the industry. And so they would probably have a sense like, hey, maybe this is going to get people blacklisted. This won't, like, so maybe that's has some value to it, even though it's not an actual warning from like Netflix or from the Duffers or from whoever else. I mean, I don't think anyone in that position would even warn you about that. I think they would just do it. They would just, you just get blacklisted. But again, I mean, it's the same thing that happened with, with Chadwick Boseman, man. He went through the whole thing though. No one ever knew was the difference. But at the end of the day, it was just kind of like, it came like a shock. Like, he actually ended up sadly dying from his cancer. But he went through the whole shooting process and whatnot. And I don't know. I get like, from a development side, from those who are in, the writers and directors and the higher ups, if you will, they got to think about this logistically as well. And, is there a liability kind of thing in the sense of like, are we going to have to recast if someone is, potentially going to end up, dying, which is kind of like a very almost inhuman way to look at it though. Cause it's like, again, even though you're a business, you should have some humanity. Like my perspective is like, yes, businesses are businesses. They're there to make money. They're there to produce products and everything like that. But still, the people that are running these organizations, the people that are running these businesses should always have a heart, a human heart, a sense of humanity towards other people, and graciousness and kindness. I have a very biblical worldview on that. That I think that in all things we should be Christ-like towards people as best as we can by the grace of God. But I mean, so I get it. When even if you're a business, you should have some kind of compassion, I guess, to some degree, to someone who's kind of in that situation. Now, I'm not saying that you have to necessarily, keep them in the show, but again, like, like, it's not like she's a main character. I mean, if she was a main character, then it'd be kind of weird that they would have just ghosted her, but it's still kind of like, well, bring her on for even a scene. All right, great. Like, it's not like there's any more seasons after. It's not like, it's that big of a risk anyways to bring her on, even if she, if you think that she would potentially pass away. Again, because she's not like, it's not like you're signing her on as a main character for like, if it's one of those things where you're looking to cast someone and you're going to cast someone for like a number of seasons. And, then I could be like, all right, maybe it's, but even then it's kind of like, let the person know. You know what I mean? Let the person know. And so I don't know. I don't know if that says anything about, the Duffers and everyone else kind of involved, that they didn't at least reach out. They didn't at least say like, hey, we're just choosing to go in a different direction. Again, from my perspective, I agree. It's like, let the person know. At least let the person know. But anyways, I wanted to kind of talk about this because I thought it was, first of all, it was a topic that was getting a lot of traction and a topic that was interesting because I think a lot of people were wondering, right? Amongst all the plot holes that, a lot of us felt that there were in season 5, that probably was one of them. Where was Max's mom? Why didn't she show up? And so that's, now you know. Now you know. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments and stick around for more. Catch you guys later. Thanks for watching.